There is a saying that if you don't travel, you don't know that the name of a dog is a storyteller. In fact, if you don't learn, you don't know that wonderful things exist. When we were young growing up, I was wondering what is going to happen in future, especially the fact that we humans we are settling everywhere. The cities and the towns are expanding. And what it literally means is that we are occupying our farmland. And when that happens, how are we going to get food? I was asking myself. Until I was introduced to modern way of farming. Then I knew that you could even grow plants in a small environment. A big shout out to my boss, my former boss, Mr. Abdallah, who introduced me to fish farming. When he asked me for the first time, that is, do you know aquaponics or hydroponics? I was like, what is that? I never heard of these terminologies before. Then he sent me a couple of videos to watch. After I watched these videos, I was inspired. And he told me that, Abdul, that so today we are at UDS in Aquala campus. We have met Professor Ebereka under the Fisher Aquaculture Department. In fact, that department, they are responsible for fish and aquaculture in UDS. And they have a program, the Institute's Lab. They have this beautiful aquaponics setup. So, as our brother is here with us from Cameroon, Mustafa, we have come here to learn a lot about aquaponics. So, Professor Eberika will take us through what aquaponics are. Then we will come to the show and then we'll see practical what everything. I explain everything in details. So, please stay watching, get inspired. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do so. My name is Abdulaziz Isa. On this channel to share fish factors based on experience research. Thank you and please stay blessed and watch the end of the video and you shall be inspired.
So Abdulaziz, thank you so much for remembering UDS, remembering the Institute's project, and coming with a visitor all the way from Cameroon. We are so grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
This is the University for Development Studies, Yankpala campus, and this is a center where we train and advocate the adoptions of secular technologies like aquaponics, hydroponics, and even fish farming. This is a project that actually came from another center here in UDS called WAC SRT. It's actually called West African Center for Sustainable Rural Transformation under the leadership of Professor Michael Ayamga. They were the pioneers of the proposal, and then he contacted me because of my expertise in fish farming and related stuff. So it was through his effort that this project was gotten. The project actually is sponsored by the European Commission or European Union actually, and it is called INCITIS Food Project. Through this project, there are a number of living laboratories that have been set up across Africa. I think there are about 8 living laboratories in all. In Nigeria, in Cameroon, where you come from,
Yes.
in Gabon, and in Sierra Leone, and also in Kenya. So these technologies are showcased in all these places in Africa. So the whole idea about promoting secular technologies such as aquaponics and hydroponics, among others, is because many places are really now expanding very fast. They are becoming cities. And as they are becoming cities, there is that issue of limited space.
Yeah.
And also, there is also that issue of water scarcity in many places, especially these are part of the country in Ghana, in Tamale in particular. If you ask even a toddler what is the biggest challenge in Tamale, they will tell you the biggest challenge is water. So,
I think that's what witnessed that yesterday.
okay,
They passing through the we were going to Cataloga to visit the farm. You see people, the women fishing in the dam. It was almost empty, and the water was like mad. Very, and he was asking, "Oh, so they are fishing?" I said, "Yeah, you have option."
yes.
So he's aware of the water scarcity.
Yeah, so this type of technologies are usually promoted, especially in regions that really have these challenges. The cities are expanding. The people need to continuously have their protein needs met, have their vitamins and mineral needs met, and so there are technologies that we try to promote, in places like this, where water is scarce, where space is a limitation, and then so they are circular because usually you use the product or the byproduct of one to produce another product in a way that they are all dependent on one another. So when we talk about aquaponics, it actually came as a result of the need to be able to, grow fish in a very small environment and still keep them healthy. I'm trying to speak in very simple terms so that you can understand exactly what it's all about. Now, I would say that aquaponics probably even is developed from another system which we call the recirculating aquaculture system, where normally you will grow the fish in a very small area and then you try to circulate the water because of the issue about scarcity. But also that system has its own challenges. And so the thinking was, now can we still grow the fish, diversify even our products, and still have very good results. And so the issue about now bringing the plant component, which typically originally was hydroponics, where they try to grow plants in very small areas using nutrient-rich water. And so the fish are able to produce this nutrient-rich water. So if it is the nutrient-rich water that you use to feed, plants in the hydroponic system, on soilless systems, because you can't really find a lot of space in urban centers to be able to grow, you know, um, vegetables in particular. So that is how aquaponics came all about, because you can get a rich nutrient effluent from the fish, which the plants need. And then when you give that actually to the plants will be nourished, they can grow. And in the process, they would also clean the water, and the water can still come back to the fish. So that is why it's actually called a circular technology. So you grow your fish, you have the waste of the fish in the water. That water is brought out, it's used to feed plants. The
Okay,
plants
okay,
literally absorb the
okay,
waste because of
okay,
the nutrients in them. And then the water is clean and is cycled back
okay.
to the fish. So it actually moves in a form of a loop
This means the same water feed the fish and the crops.
at the same time.
Okay, okay,
Because the fish, when you feed the fish, basically the feed that is normally given to the fish is mostly protein based. I'm saying protein based in the sense that it contains higher amounts of protein.
okay.
Now, protein is normally measured by the amount of nitrogen that is in it. Now, when you feed that to the fish, some of the food is not eaten, so you have a lot of food that is decomposing in the water and releasing nitrogen. Some of the food, when they eat and then they excrete, some of it is not utilized, so they excrete also nitrogen. So the water becomes rich in nitrogen in the form of ammonia. And then plants
Mm-hmm.
require nitrogen to be able to grow. If you allow the nitrogen to build up in the fish pond, when it builds up to certain levels, it can cause problems to the fish. Basically, they will die due to ammonia or ammonium poisoning. And so you always have to get that ammonia from the water out. So the best way to do it actually is to pass it through some sort of filtration processes, biological filtration and mechanical filtration,
Okay,
to
okay.
remove the dissolved nutrients and then the undissolved nutrients. But then with the coming of aquaponics, the plant component, when you add it to the fish component, the water goes from the fish tank to the plant beds where they are growing. And so the nitrogen or the ammonium compounds are being utilized by the plants. And so they are literally able to clean the water or remove the nitrogen from the water. So, and the water is sent back to the fish tank. That makes it cleaner.
Okay, okay.
So you can use the same amount of water, but you can have multiple benefits from that water if you are into aquaponics than somebody who is just into, let's say, aquaculture alone, where you are growing only fish, or somebody who is into hydroponics, where you are growing just plants. And so you can have your protein from your fish, and you can have your vitamins and minerals from the plants that you grow. So that is basically what the aquaponics concept is all about. And you could do this in a very small area,
Okay, okay.
depending on your ingenuity, and probably your designs. So what you see here is a whole complete setup of what an aquaponics system really looks like. And when we take you through, you will come to understand that you don't really have to have all of this to be
Okay.
able to have a functioning unit called an aquaponics unit. But then, because this is a training center, we try to showcase almost everything that is absolutely necessary to enhance understanding and to create that opportunity for people to choose what they want based on what resources they have. So basically, that is what we do here. It's a 4-year project. God willing, it will end next year. And this is what we do here. So thanks to Professor Michael Ayamga, assisted by Professor, assisted by Dr. Isaac Ansa. They are my bosses. In fact, I
Okay.
wasn't able to tell them that you were coming, but then they are the ones who have supported me for us to have this setup here. So we do have people coming just like you have come to
Thank
learn
you.
about it. And then Aziz has been here quite a number of times. There was even an opportunity for them to apply for some funding. He
Yeah.
applied, but he sent me
Thank
a
you.
message
Thank you so
recently that
much.
he wasn't shortlisted. So I said,
Thank you
well,
so much
yes,
for giving me this opportunity.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
So that is what we have here. Um, I don't know if you have any question you want to ask, or you need any clarification, or you want to go straight away to see what we have.
Yes,
Um,
I want to ask that the same water and the same water you say the fish and the same water using
Grow the
to
plants.
yes to do the plant and that water cannot be small. Do you understand my cannot be small and every time you can add or when you put it one times is okay.
So normally you will have to replenish the water from time to time,
Okay.
because as the water is moving around,
Yeah.
there may be leakages. Some will be lost.
Yeah, yeah,
As the plants are absorbing the nutrients, they absorb it with water.
with water
So some of the water will be lost
will
as
be
the plants
lost.
are using the water to grow.
Yes, that my question. That
Yes.
my
And
question.
for us, because this is in the open, evaporation also will take place because the sun is hitting directly on the water. But the thing is, the amount of water that actually you need to replenish is not so much compared to if you were probably just doing fish farming
Yes,
alone,
yes, I
or you were
know.
doing just hydroponics alone.
Okay, okay,
If you look at it holistically in terms of the benefits that you will get when you are doing the two, it's more economical. It makes sense
okay,
to do that. So occasionally you will replenish the water, but it is not so much that you will have to be worried about compared to if you were doing the conventional systems.
okay,
So
okay,
yes,
okay,
you lose water, but not so much of it.
okay, okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can have a talk. Okay, so let's
Okay,
go and then you can have a look
okay,
at what we have.
okay.
And maybe other one thing that I didn't also say is that because you are able to clean the water constantly,
Yes.
your fishes are actually able to grow faster and they are more healthy
Okay, okay, okay.
compared to when you are not really doing the aquaponics system.
Okay, I understand.
So here we have a standard system that was established by one of our partners. In fact, he did the designs and all of that. I will show you that. But then we also wanted to create a system that was much easier for us to be able to adapt.
Okay.
Sometimes because of the cost implications of having to invest in the standard system. So I want to start with our own innovation here.
Okay.
Um, just to say that you don't need to have the standard system to be able to have an aquaponics system set up. You can actually use what you have,
Okay.
to still have it. So basically, in an aquaponics system, there's usually a fish tank where the fishes are grown.
Okay.
You have the grow bed where the plants are growing. And the grow beds, there are different types. When we get to the standard system, I will show you the different types of grow beds. But that which we are seeing here now is the called a media bed. Basically, we use pebbles or chickens.
It's only that one.
It's only
There is
this.
no sun inside
There
there.
is no sun. There is no soil. Nothing. That's why we actually call it a soilless system.
Okay.
So
A soilless system.
soilless system. It means there's no sun. There's nothing.
Okay.
So you need a fish tank. You need a grow bed. You need a sump where you can put in a pump that can circulate the water.
Okay, okay.
But in some situations, you don't really have to have a pump, especially when you are in a place where there is no electricity. You
Okay,
can do
okay.
it manually. So this is what we call the manual chop and flip system. But we've also designed it such that it can be a hybrid system, that it can also use electricity. So with just one IBC tank, this tank, if you buy this tank, you chop it into two. You can use the top part to grow your plants, and then the down part will be where your fish will be.
Okay.
So the water from the fish tank here is what comes up here.
Okay.
Then the plants absorb it, and then the water comes back here.
The water
Comes back here,
back here.
and that is just how it works. So if you have a sump where you have a tank inside, the water continuously cycles from the fish tank to the grow bed, from the grow bed to the fish tank, and in that way.
Okay.
Yes. So you see that these plants that are here, this is called the jute plant. I think in the northern part of Ghana.
Jute plant.
Jute. They call it a yo-yo. That's the common name, right? Aziz? Yeah.
The first time he came, the teaser we took. I told you, yes, I know it. In our country, we call it kelen kelen.
Kelen kelen. Oh, great. So it's more or less like it's an African, vegetable.
Yes.
So you see that it is growing here. No, we have not added any nutrient. We have not added anything. It's just the water from the fish tank, which is the
Any fertilizer?
Nothing. No fertilizer. Nothing. And it's growing. In fact, we have grown tomatoes here. We have grown pepper here. We've grown this one. We've also even grown
tomatoes,
tomato,
pepper. I see even onion.
Yes. The onion, we just tried it, not quite long.
Okay.
And we have even grown watermelon also here.
Even watermelon.
We have grown amaranthus. You can see this is even amaranthus.
And this one amaranthus.
Yes, amaranthus. It's called the alefi or something. That's the common name. In fact, at one time, accidentally, a maize seed germinated here, and we did not remove it, and actually it grew.
Okay.
And then produced.
I should put seed somewhere before planted, or I make seed here.
You can do the two. You can actually transplant your seedlings if you want.
Okay.
You can also just plant your seeds directly.
Okay.
And then they will grow.
Okay. Both of them.
Both of them, they can grow.
Thank you.
But of course, you need to have some agronomics background to be able to know which seed can grow easily here, which cannot grow here. So you can come and have a look. In fact, they just harvested the fish recently, but they left some. And so you can see the size of the catfish that is inside. Just be patient, they will come up. Be patient, they will come up. You have tilapia here, and also you have catfish. Just be patient, the catfish will come out. You'll see the size, and you will marvel that they are growing in a very small tank here. Maybe they have to bring in some feed, but I'm hoping that they will come up for you to see them. But you are able to see
Yes, I
the
see.
catfish. You've seen the sizes of the catfish.
I see. It's big. I see.
You see them? Yeah. They just harvested them and then they just left a few because normally we leave them just to showcase.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we melange catfish and tilapia, the catfish cannot eat tilapia.
Mostly catfish and tilapia, they occupy different areas in the water. Catfish basically is a benthic fish. It lives in the bottom of the water. Tilapia naturally they live in the water column.
Okay.
Now, if you see them putting catfish and tilapia together, a lot of the time the catfish is supposed to control the population of the tilapia. So they will be able to eat just the tilapia that are probably fry or juvenile or even the eggs of the tilapia, but not when they are so big.
Okay, okay.
So you can actually put the two of them together. So when we do this, we just do this to be able to control the population of the tilapia because the tilapia they grow, they reproduce very fast.
Okay.
So you put the two together, you are able to control the population of the tilapia. Yeah, so that is why you see that both of them are here. So I was saying that if you don't have electricity, what we did here was that if you don't have electricity,
yes,
the fish tank is connected to, this is what I call the sump. So what you do is that on a daily basis, you just turn on the valve, the water comes to the sump here. Then you fetch it into the grow bed, and then it drips back slowly. It drips back slowly. So if you don't really have electricity, you can still practice aquaponics.
When I don't have electricity, it means I'm the one who fetch water here
and put
to
it there.
bring it there.
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't have electricity, that is what you have to keep doing.
Okay.
But if you have electricity and you have a pump, then you don't have to do that. You see that the water is coming and going. Nobody is fetching it and putting it there because there's a pump in the sump over there that is used to feed this, and that is what we call the hybrid. So basically, this is the name is manual chop and flip. Manual chop and flip.
Okay.
Aquaponics system.
Aquaponics system.
Yes, it's manual because you only fetch the water by yourself, and then you pour it inside, and it comes.
Okay.
Yes, but this is the standard system that was developed by one of our partners from Germany, and so here you have the fish tank is here, and then you have a sump down there. That is where we have that's where we have the pump. The pump is in the sump here. So the pump leaves the water. It comes here. Usually through here. So normally when they want to feed, they will just stop the water to allow the water to become calm. So the sump brings the water here. Then this is where you do the feeding of the fish. And then as they are eating, if the water is flowing more than it is going out through the system, then it passes through what we call this overflow pipe. Then it goes back into the system. Now it is designed in a way that some of the food, when it dissolves, it becomes liquid. So, and some of the food, it is still in the solid form. So as the water continuously fills up, it goes out. Then the solid is trapped inside here. The solid form is trapped inside here. Because they stopped it, the water is not flowing. But all the solids, like the feces that is not decomposed, the food that is not eaten, all the solid comes here. And then it settles to the bottom. And then the water flows out through here. And it goes back to the sump. Okay. Now the solids that are normally collected here, what we do is that we allow the solids to come through here. This is called a mineralization tank. Now, when the solids come in through here, it will decompose here. So as it decomposes, more nutrients are made available. Then we allow the nutrients to go to where the grow beds are, to the plants. So this is just to be able to facilitate the decomposition of the solid waste that is generated, that comes into the system. But the liquid waste goes directly back to where the plants are, where it is being absorbed. So a lot of the time, when we notice that the liquid waste that is going to the plants doesn't contain sufficient nutrients. For instance, if we see that the plants are yellowing or they are getting wrinkles, we suspect that the nutrient levels are not very adequate. And so we come to open this mineralization tank, which contains a lot of nutrients, because the solid that comes here, when it decomposes, it releases a lot more nutrients. So when we suspect that is the situation, then we allow the water here to go to the plants, and then that can sustain them for a while. So that is how the entire system is. So the water comes through this is called a radial flow filter. This is called the mineralization filter, a mineralization tank. And then this is a second filter. This is a second filter. If the solids, that's the first filter, this is the second one. So if any solid escapes from the first filter, it will be trapped in the second filter. It will not go back to the sun. You get it. So this is how this whole system works out. I was talking about recirculating aquaculture system. This, when you probably cut this part only, that is the recirculation aquaculture system. But if you add this part, then it becomes the aquaponics system. So now this is the plant region. So there are 3 different types of grow beds that we are showing here. This one that you see here, they are sitting on water. It's only water.
This one is only water.
It's only water. This one is sitting only on water.
There is no.
There are no stones. There is nothing. It just sits on water. And so we call this the deep water culture system. Now, if you want to do this, you have to be able to provide aeration, because without aeration, the roots of the plants may not be able to breathe literally. So mostly those who practice the deep water culture system, they have to have aeration in addition. But if you don't really have aeration, you may not really want to practice this, or you will have to look for a plant that is quite resilient. This plant that you see here is quite resilient. It's so strong that even without aeration, it is able to survive. It's called a mint. It's a mint. So it's a type of herbal plant that is used in making tea, sometimes chewing gum.
And the chewing gum also.
Yes, and so there are different types. Smell this and see whether you recognize it.
This one is very.
You recognize it?
Yes, very higher than this one.
So there are different varieties. This is one variety. This is another variety that is used in doing so many things. But this one loves water more than this one. And so in terms of survival, if there's little water, this one survives better than this one. Okay. This is just a training center, so we try to keep all of them for you to see. So this is the media bed, just like I had shown you over there. So this one is only the pebbles that you see. Now, if you have this one, you don't need aeration. You don't need to add any air into the water. To the water, because this one is such that it's able to. It normally is designed in a way that the water fills up and drains. The water comes up and drains. So because it is able to come up and it drains and there are pebbles, the plant roots are able to breathe. And so if you are using this, you don't need aeration. If you are using this, you need aeration. You get the point?
Yes.
Yeah. And also in terms of stability, mostly when you put plants here, they are more stable. Even when there is a wind, it doesn't easily blow them away compared to when you use the DWC.
Deep
Exactly. Because here the roots are just suspended in the water, and so they are not anchored
There is
like
nothing
this.
can trap them.
Exactly,
Ah.
exactly. But you always have to use the that which is convenient, for you. So this is one of them, and this is the
Okay.
last one, which we call the neutron film technique. Here, the water doesn't stay. The water comes and then it passes
Go.
out. The water just comes and it passes out. So you normally will plant the plants. You put the plants inside these nest holes. You put them here. Yeah, you can see that these are some old plants that are there. You see how they have grown.
Here, even there is no stone.
No stone.
The plant can grow.
It's just the plant that is inside there and the water passes through. The water just passes through. Usually, if we have some water flowing through. This is locked. Okay. All right.
That
So
one is mean I have to know which kind of plant I am going to put.
exactly. You see that this is a bit shallow. So there are some plants, especially those that have very deep roots. When you put them here, they cannot survive.
Okay.
So you see how the water flows?
Yeah.
This is how the water flows. It just flows out like this.
Mm-hmm.
It flows out like this all the time. The water just flows out like this all the time. So the water from the fish tank, it comes, it feeds the plants, and then it just goes.
Go return back.
That's all. It just comes and returns back. We have not used this for some time now because it has some small challenge which we are trying to solve. But you see, that is just how this one works. So this one, you can decide to put them in the form of a tower. Then they grow like this. So even if your space is much smaller than you have it this way, you can line them up horizontally.
Horizontally.
Vertically. You can line them up vertically, and then you can use a small space. So even if you have just the space near your wall, you can still use this one to grow. Of course, you know that you cannot really have the media bed, or you cannot have the DWC,
Yes.
but you can do this. So depending on what you have, the resources that are available to you will now let you decide whether you want to use NFT, whether you want to use DWC, or you want to use media bed.
Okay, I want to ask this system, if there is no light, still working, or is when there is no light cannot
This depends solely on light.
on light?
Yes. Well, it depends solely on a pump working. Now, the pump can be powered by electricity. It can also be a mechanical pump. Okay, so once you have a pump somewhere that can get power, whether it is from electricity or it's from maybe gas or
solar.
whatever. But for this system to work, the water must continuously be moving. It must move continuously. It must. So if you don't really have a pump that can be powered by any source of energy, you can use this. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the sump is here. So all the water, when it comes, it comes this way, and then it comes back into here. This is the sump. That's where the pump is.
Okay.
And then
This is the pump.
this is where the pump is.
Okay. The place the pump is stay, we don't have to put fish there.
You don't have to put fish, but we have some fish surviving in there actually. They passed through the tanks. And then they came. The tilapia in particular, some of them laid eggs, and then the eggs somehow found their way in it. So we have some fish growing in it. But usually we don't really grow fish in the sump. But in our case, the fishes are able to even grow there. So
the egg fish maybe can come here
yes,
and grow up.
yes, it can hatch and come here and
Can
grow.
hatch some fish here.
So but that was just accidental. It's not something that was
it's
really
not
intended.
in the system.
No, I mean that is not conventional. It's not something that is practiced. But accidentally, we had some of the fishes coming inside there, and then they are surviving. So basically, that is what it is. Yeah. So this is basically the aquaponics system. You can
Okay.
choose between the different types of hydroponics
Okay.
media beds, or you can have a very simple setup like the manual chop and flip aquaponics system, and then that is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Aziz, I don't know if you have been here before. Perhaps there may be something that you want to add yourself, and then yeah. So you could see the amaranthus is growing. No
Yeah,
fertilizer. It's
it's
just the
growing.
water from the fish tank. Everything that you see here, no fertilizer has
No
been added.
fertilizer.
It's just goes like that.
It's a
And
good system.
yeah.
Very good system.
So if you happen to go back to Cameroon, ask for BAST,
Okay.
where BAST is. I'll look for the full meaning, but it's Bermuda something something University
Okay.
of
Okay.
Technology.
Okay.
Also,
I will accept.
and then the one Professor Roland Baga is there. He
Mm,
has also very similar setups, and I think that he will be more than happy to explain to you a
mm,
lot more, especially what is happening in Cameroon.
yes.
He visited us here.
Ah. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and then he also shared with us some of the things that they do in Cameroon.
I will visit you.
Yes, yeah. So basically, this is how the aquaponics system is
Okay.